Those that know me know that I have a long history of fighting with teachers, particularly teachers that I didn't feel were challenging me enough or had their game enough together or whatever it was. I mean, this is when I was younger. Spent a lot of time analyzing and working on this. And the teachers that I was inspired by or that I felt challenged by or that kept me busy, I had the utmost respect and beautiful devotional, relationships with them. But yeah, there were many teachers that I would love to wage battle with. And at some point in middle school, there was some like health teacher, that we'd have to fill out and do these just inane worksheets that I think at the time, the one that kind of broke my back in that metaphoric sense was, how we would react to certain situations. And you were supposed to say something. I don't even know what the correct response was. But these were not ways that I would normally respond or that I think most well-adjusted people would respond. They were, extremely artificial. The language they were looking for was, very, for lack of a better term, PC, but not in a way that actually enhanced or clarified communication or the, statement of need. It just was, some ridiculous academic body's idea of what, of how one should respond in these, circumstances. So I really had no interest in giving the answers that I knew were expected of me. So I think I wrote some very contrarian, potentially disrespectful, but I think just, I answered them honestly. I didn't give the answer I knew I was supposed to give. And I guess I had been sort of walking that line for maybe a little bit of time in that class, and the teacher knew that I knew better. And so without even saying anything to me, I guess she was annoyed with me and she thought she was going to really get me. She turned the papers into my guidance counselor, who also who was the head of the student council, and I was a student council officer. So I was in his office every morning. It was my homeroom. And so at the end of, our morning meeting, he's like, "Oh, Holly, can I talk to you for a minute?" So he pulls me into his office and he shows me these worksheets with like all of the red all over it. And he's like, what is this about? And I started getting nervous. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble. He's going to kick me out of being, vice president or whatever. And I was just like, I was just honest. And I said, I know, I would never respond that way. And I started giving this answer. And he could tell it was an earnest answer of, I'm supposed to say this, but come on. Da, da, da. And before I could even finish the sentence, he goes, "You just couldn't play the game anymore?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Have a great day." He tore up the paper and he threw it in the trash. And Mr. Borneman was his name. And I so love him and I'm grateful to him for that experience, because so many times in school, kids don't feel seen. It doesn't matter if it's a private or a public school, a great school or not so great school. It's just, there's other people. There's so much going on for everybody in the room. And it's a hard time for kids usually, middle school, whatever. And there's a lot going on for everybody. And just to feel, it's cliche to say, but to feel that scene and for him to realize like, she is not a problem. This is not a problem. I'm not going to make a problem of someone just, deciding to kind of be real for a moment. And so I offer that because I try to provide that wherever I can to people, which is to say it's providing grace for, maybe when they get anxious about something, you're like, this is not something you need to be anxious about, but who am I to say what their life experience was or what their day was like? And just to kind of hold space, as they are wont to say, for them to not act out necessarily, but to just be fully and truly themselves in that moment. If something becomes a pattern and it's not sustainable or it's, activating or harmful to them or you in some other way, of course we address that. I think it's not to take ourselves or any like systemic, bureaucratic way too seriously.